Last week we had the parable of the sower where Jesus is throwing seed all over the place, and I mentioned that 3/4 of the seed he throws falls on ground we consider not very fertile, not very fruitful. The gospel today, what he's mentioning is these type of plants that grow from this fertile soil. So you have the wheat, you have the weeds. Goes on to explain the wheat is those that are righteous, those that are rooted in God, and the enemy comes also and plants weeds, and we grow up side by side, the saints and the sinners. But we all have a little bit of weed in us that has to be constantly pruned. God gives us opportunities to weed out things in our life, these things that we call sin. It's very obvious from that first reading. Wisdom being probably the last book written of the Old Testament. It says, and that last sentence today, and you gave your children good ground for hope that you would permit repentance for their sins. You gave them ground for hope because they can do away with the weeds in their life. They can turn back to you. So we worship a God of second chances, third chances, fourth chances, fifth chances, those that come with a sincere heart. Now, I get to experience that in the confessional all the time, an instrument of God's mercy, but I'm also in very much need of that. And so yesterday, pretty funny story, I was sitting there in the rectory just kind of like I didn't have anything. Really, I've been racking my brain all week about what to preach. And I was sitting there at about 2:30 and my phone rang. And I looked down at my phone, and it was one Most Reverend Thomas J. Rhodey. And I said, oh, God. I said, what did I do now? I hadn't been on social media. I hadn't posed with any AR-15s in the last 2 weeks. Got all my guns hidden away. Can't be that. And he said, hey, I'm in the neighborhood. Just wanted to stop by, see how you were doing. I said, you're in the neighborhood? 2 hours and 45 minutes from Mobile. You must be lost today. But he was coming back from the parish in Clio where he was doing confirmation, just driving through Troy. And he said he wanted just to stop in and see how things were. And that meant the world to me. So he came in and we had a great conversation, just for about 45 minutes about the different things that are happening in the world. I said, Bishop, if you got anything to preach, I could really use something right now. And he goes, well, just tell your people, a year ago, I sent a weed to St. Martin of Tours. I said, well, I agree, but we're going to get to be wheat here one day. And so it's constantly that in our lives, to strive to be better, to do better, to become saints. And it's not, things don't grow just overnight. You have to nourish them. We have to nourish our faith. And we do that by, like I said, practicing what the church asks, going, seeking the sacraments, having a prayer life, having a relationship with God. It's very easy for us to say, take all the weeds out of our life right now, because you can just turn on the news. There's a lot of weeds out there just causing destruction. I mean, there's deeper things that are involved, but ultimately this is about the destruction of a godly way of life. And it's very visible with churches being burned down and statues being torn down of saints and desecration of sacred things. And it's easy for us to say, Lord, take these weeds up. And that day will come. We all know God's justice will reign. But he's not going to take the weeds up for fear that he's going to do with the wheat. You don't want to uproot the weeds because the wheat are in danger of being uprooted as well. And that is us. And so he's asking us to bear witness to what we believe. And to stand firm, to hold firm to the great gift that we believe in a God of second chances and third chances and fourth chances. You gave your children good ground for hope, that you would permit repentance for their sins. And never underestimate hope. Hope is a powerful, powerful thing. Christ gives us hope from the cross. And I've said this before, don't confuse optimism with hope. He's not very optimistic things are going to turn out all right that day. But he's very hopeful. He knows the glory of the resurrection is coming. He knows that God the Father loves and is in control. And so whatever happens in our lives, we have good ground for hope. Whether we're a weed or a wheat, it depends. But it doesn't. We always have a reason to get out of bed because we have good ground for hope.